There is a lack of education in sales. We have a conversation with Professor Lyndal Drennan, economics professor and industry expert in economics, on her views of why there is so. Lyndal, thank you so much for being interviewed on our conversation series with the National Sales Institutes. You're an astute professor, economics, I believe, as well as extensive industry experience. Lyndal, sales is obviously what's on our minds. What's your current perception of the sales function?
Vu, it's not as straightforward. When you started talking to me, I thought, yeah, this is quite simple. It's not as straightforward. When I thought about it more, I thought this is an area that needs proper thought and proper responses to it. My thoughts at the moment, I think I see a lot of businesses that don't really understand how valuable the sales function can be and should be. I think a lot of businesses think of sales as order taking. And I think that's where we can see a lot of opportunity to get uplift, to get a great deal more value for businesses if we see a rather more sophisticated view of what sales people and technology can do. So I think we're at an exciting point where we can make sales a positive contributor to the business, but I don't think we have done so far.
No, not at all. So do you think then sales probably doesn't deserve the rap that it has at the moment then?
Well, I think it possibly does deserve the rap, but I think it's not all the fault of the salespeople. I mean, let me give you an example. One of my areas of interest is performance management and performance systems. And what we know in that area is that what we reward is what we get. So if you look at the reward packages of many salespeople, what do they get rewarded for? They get rewarded for selling more and more and more and more. And that sort of brings you back to that. It's almost funny that picture in your introductory scenario about sales and the salesman selling a bag of ice to the man up at the North Pole. I mean, we laugh at that, but then we think, well, why is he doing it? Well, it's probably because he gets a commission for doing it. And whose fault is that? That's management. That's not the salesman's fault. The salesman's rational. If you're going to give me a commission for this, then I'll do it, dummy. So I think management has to take a bit of responsibility here too for frankly, for rewarding the wrong thing. I think they should reward repeat business and customer loyalty a lot more than they do. Anyway, but it's an opportunity. That's where the growth opportunity is, I think.
And I think you're right. I think the culture that the industry brings that drives these behaviors. Now, compared then to other business functions, or I guess other careers, some of the research has shown us that sales is probably not recognized as a professional career. What do you think makes a career professional, Lyndal?
Standards and excellence, understanding about where the contributions are that they can make, and understanding about where the pitfalls are that they must avoid. So I think it's about standards and competence and quality.
Now, generally with careers such as, I'm just going to throw a couple of generic ones, accounting, HR, supply chain, procurement, all of them really in business. A lot of these standards and competencies are trained, I guess, through a qualification. Now, we've seen at Current that across the AQF, from about AQF 5 and onwards, or upwards, sorry, there is no qualification for sales. Why do you think that's the case? If business sees sales as so important?
Well, perhaps there's been an underlying perception that what makes a good salesperson is lots of personality, and you can't train that. Perhaps I'm only surmising here. So perhaps it's a lack of understanding. I'm going to go back and pin the blame on management again. A lack of understanding about the possible uplift that we can get from well-trained salespeople, as opposed to just hiring somebody who's got a great personality. They can contribute more, but we have to understand where that contribution is, and the contribution is in the interface with the customer. That's the point where literally where the rubber hits the road. It's where one organisation interfaces with another. And if you don't understand what that customer organisation is looking for and needing, like the man up on the North Pole who really didn't need a bag of ice, if we don't understand that, then our salespeople don't understand it either. And so we tie their hands behind their backs by not pointing out the need to professionalise and to really work with the customer to build a relationship. So I think we have to encourage that uplift in outlook. And it's not just a matter of taking the order and running, it's a matter of working a relationship. Entirely different thing.
Now, I'm going to pull a little bit of economics on you here, Lyndal. So obviously economics is supply and demand. We've got supply, there's demand, or vice versa. Where is that convergent point between a company supplying something and a customer, I guess, demanding something, and that convergent point? Now, you teach in economics how the world goes around, right? Financially, how the world goes around. And in MBAs, EMBAs, and business qualifications in general, where we teach standards, we teach how accounting standards are to operate. And you mentioned how, we might have recruited people in sales just because they're extrovert. And, if they've got the gift of the gab, as some people might cliche say it. So can standards be put in place for the sales function?
Yes. Yes, not only can they be put in place, if you want to achieve more and better, then you need to put standards in place. There are some things that really should be not acceptable, like selling to the man at the ice pole. At the North Pole, selling the man at the North Pole ice. There are some things that should not be acceptable. There are standards that I believe absolutely we should have. It's critically important, isn't it, to interface with your customer organisations. And where do the customer and the supplier organisation interface? It's at that sales function. So if you don't set standards, reasonable expectations and growth expectations, then how can we reasonably turn around and say to somebody, well, you didn't achieve it, you didn't do what we wanted you to do. What do we want you to do? We didn't define that. What are we thinking? We must set the standards. Yes.
Do you believe industry, and I'm talking CEOs, C-suite, do you think they are ready for standards in sales? Or do you think we still have this deep culture of more and more, year-on-year growth only? Do you think they're ready to accept non-year-on-year growth?
One of the ways that we in the financial community define and observe growth is by growth of that. I come back to that top line, the sales line on the income statement. That's one of the benchmarks through which we observe growth. So does management want it? Yes, they do. What we need to help management to understand, though, is that it also needs to be not just week to week or month to month. It needs to be a long-term sustainable trajectory. of growth. And then you go back to standards and you say, well, okay, this man sold a bag of ice to the man up on the North Pole once, but I'll bet he doesn't sell a second one. So management will get the idea, just like we've taught management about the importance of supply chain management and all of those other HR management, all of those other areas. We've taught them to think about the quality that they can deliver. We can help them to understand that a quality sales top line is one which is sustainable, which does grow into the future. So yeah, absolutely, it's an area waiting for development, I believe. But of course, you've got to help management to understand why this is important for them.
Oh, not at all. So, Lyndal, what do you think then is the future of sales? How do you see it in 10 years' time, 15 years' time?
Well, in a market society, which we live in, fortunately, and I hope we continue to live in a market society, you're always going to have buyers and sellers. It's not going to be mandated by a central government. So, there's the bottom line. It's going to be happening. Can we do it better? Yes. What's the payoff for doing it better? Well, the payoff is less waste. The payoff is more sustainable businesses. The payoff is less things being chucked into the rubbish dump because they don't work. The payoff eventually will be those patient, longer-term investors who want a sustainable business. And so, the notion of part of the performance also being keeping the customer satisfied because the product is good and fit for purpose, of keeping the relationship strong, not just the financial bottom line, but all sorts of other things that we must build on to make industry sustainable. There's a lot of changing in attitudes there. I think it's going to happen. I think we are getting smarter, but we've also got a few dinosaurs that we have to drive out of industry to make it happen.
Well, Lyndal, thank you so much for your time today. It's been incredible hearing your insights into, I guess, what is a hidden issue in society at the moment.
So it's been a pleasure talking to you.